Coaching in 2025 isn't going to get any easier. In fact, it's only going to get harder. And today we're going to break down the things you need to be doing to move those friends, followers, and acquaintances to knowing exactly what you do, to knowing exactly who you are, and knowing exactly how you can help them. There are billions of people on this planet. There are enough potential clients for every single coach that is out there, yet none of us have enough clients, or at least that's what I continue to hear. So today, Andrew and I are going to dive in to that and give you some actionable steps that you need to be taking. Andrew, how are you today, dude? Cold.
It's cold.
You're in Atlanta. It's probably like 63 degrees and you're sitting there cold.
It's not Florida, sir. No, there's the polar vortex has arrived.
I'm pretty sure it's actually cold in Florida as well. So
listen, bro, I'm wearing shorts because I'm not equipped for the winter. And I was wearing a hoodie and my riding jacket last night when I had to take Mickey out. And so now today I am bundled in a fur of a whale that I skinned myself.
There you go.
To survive.
Somebody from Atlanta who went to Arizona and then back into Atlanta. And
oh man,
yeah, just
I miss Arizona. 115, 120 all day. This shit under 40s
they make
for the
you
birds.
Soft. I'm just saying that right now. They make you soft.
Bro, get out of here, man. Doing those hikes at 3 p.m. in Arizona is the best experience. But you put me in the frigid temperature. I've had hypothermia before. That is not fun for me. But you guys must have gotten a light dusting.
You know, we were thankfully just enough north that we got maybe like an eighth to a quarter of an inch total. And it's windy enough that it blew literally all the snow away that I didn't even have to worry about taking a shovel, a broom, or a snowblower out. So we're good. We're good. But
all right. Well, that's pretty good. Solid start to the new year.
All right. Well, the marketing awareness continuum, like this is really the basis on what we're going to talk about today. Mm-hmm. And this is like, let's be clear, this isn't necessarily new. You and I have had a couple conversations around this, and it's a couple of stages that you pull people through to go from unaware to most aware about what's going on. It comes down to this whole, you have an audience, whether it be in a gym, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever it might be. There's an audience of people that know you exist to some extent. Attention, right? So we are an acquaintance with them, however that might be. It might be a follow, friend, etc. And these people just know you exist as a human. They have no idea how you can help them and how much you can potentially care about them. You know, Andrew, you always refer that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? That's what you say. So it's hard to relay that if they just have no clue what problems you could even solve for them in their life. And when we typically feel like weird issues around the idea of marketing and sales as coaches, guess what? You come across as really, really awkward when it's like, oh, hey, Andrew, I'm a coach and I can help you do the thing you're doing better, because you probably also don't even know what they care about. But those 5 stages are moving from unaware. They just have no idea. Maybe that they have a problem, that you offer a service, that you could solve their problem. They just have literally no clue what kind of the thing is. And that's a great spot for somebody to be in, but also a dangerous spot, because the thing they're going to start to latch onto, or they're going to become aware of, like the problem awareness. So stage 2 is problem awareness, is ultimately what somebody tells them. The key becomes, are you the person who's going to tell them the thing? And you can't walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you need to lose weight, if you don't have a relationship, right? Like that's not going to highlight or go well for you. But we eventually get them the problem aware. We'll talk you through some of those steps, and eventually they become solution aware. Oh, I want to get stronger. What's the solution? There's this epic programming that I can go and purchase that will walk me through the stages to getting stronger. And then I'll be able to do XYZ bench press, squat, thing, lift heavier, etc. So I've now moved them from completely unaware to solution aware. But if you are not in front of them, now you're leaving them to their own devices to go find the solution of their choosing. and you want to control them to come down the path of, hey, I have this solution for you. So now it's about creating product awareness. Stage 4 is product aware. You want them to understand what your product is. I can go down and not only is a solution this lifting program, but it's actually this periodization scheme that has been built, and it's this whole metabolic recovery and enhancement system that allows me to go and do what I want to do while making sure that I don't sacrifice a bunch of other things along the way. Because let's face it, people, in order to get stronger, you got to lose something. In order to lose weight, you got to lose something. It's just what happens. But if we can control those things, that's how we can best serve our body. And then last stage, stage 5, is going to become most aware. They know who you are, what you do, how you can help them. They relate to the problem that they have. And we want to move them choreographed, so to speak, through those 5 stages as we can. But we want to be in control. So, Andrew, you and I both have had time in gyms in person, but we've also obviously coached plenty of online things and done online things where we're looking to move people through these phases from an in person, in the gym, in the brick and mortar, in lifetime. Like, how have you historically gone through, let me move somebody through these phases? First, let me meet this guy, let me create this friendship, and then how does it eventually lead to the point in time where it's like, hey, I can help you, would you like me to help you? Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's I think that this has utility in everything because you're always at the end of the day trying to convince someone of something, whether that's, and it kind of comes down to a value proposition, right? Like we always hear people when it comes to marketing or sales or product or service is that you have to create value for people to want to engage with you. And I kind of look at this as we have the problem awareness continuum, or if you have struggles with wrapping your brain around that, what we're effectively talking about is how do you get someone to go from a hand raise of self identifying that they have an issue all the way to handshake, which is where the business is done. And, there are the relationship is a strong component of overcoming psychological resistance, where exactly what you said earlier. And I can't remember who to credit for this, so forgive me, but um, you know, eh, caring is a precursor to value than knowledge is, unless someone already has a specific problem. So the idea, and this is where I think a lot of content marketing comes in, of how do you get someone from scroll to, oh, that's interesting, right? And you kind of had the ADA model and interest generation and like all the other weird things that, there's 50 different models to get someone to potentially become interested in something. But we find that when someone doesn't realize they have a problem, if you offer them a solution, it becomes something that you're like, hey, if you don't realize you've gained weight slowly over the years and you're the first person to tell someone you're fat, I don't want to go on a date with you, or whatever that is, you've now jumped a couple of different things. It becomes offensive. You start to create a kind of a conflict heavy relationship. Well, we're going from unaware, someone's scrolling through, they don't know you, they don't know anything about you. Same thing when people are walking past you in the street. A lot of these principles are the same, they just change in terms of the medium. And so how do you get someone to want to engage with you? You have to create interest. And some of the ways that we can create interest is we create stories and we share secrets. So this is where when someone's like, hey, here's the top 3 secrets that I use as a fitness professional to, get people super lean or to help them achieve their goals or whatever that outcome is, that's where we want to be more tangential before people are looking for something, in which case that's where they're like, hey, I want a consultation with you because I have this problem. Like that would be the hand raise component of how do you go from, I have this thing, you have a problem, I can sell you a solution, which is more or less what the transactional nature of business is, and how people think like, well, I do coaching, no one wants to buy coaching, let me tell more people about the coaching that I do, let me tell them about the service I deliver. By and large irrelevant, because you're now standing in a crowded space of people that are also shouting, hey, I do coaching, this is what it charges and this is what it delivers, and you're like, not really a thing. If you start with a story or a secret, then people will start to identify themselves in that story. Storytelling is probably one of the best things you can do to get people to have their barriers and their defensiveness lowered, in order for you to have the best chance of building something to actually connect with that human. Otherwise, you're kind of turning into an infomercial. So all that to say, stories and secrets are probably one of the best things that I've learned. And then you have things that are, like basically proof, social proof, right? Demonstration assets is another way of saying that, where now you start going from unaware to problem aware. People understand, oh my gosh, based upon the story, I see that this is a cautionary tale, and this is how we've taught children for millennia, for centuries, right? Of like, don't touch the snake. Remember what happened to Bob? Bob touched the snake. Bob died. Don't be like Bob, right? That would be one way for people to be like, oh, I don't want to fuck with snakes. And you're like, yeah, you don't, right? And then now they know that there's a problem. So then here are the benefits of messing around with the snake, and here are the anxieties, or here are the problems that happen. Toxicity, like this is where everyone talk about overeating, right? People are unaware. Hey, I had a client and all they did was eat
Bob ate
CC's
too
pizza
many
all day,
Twinkies.
every day.
Don't be like Bob.
Bob, we're going to beat Bob up, right? Bob, too much. So then what does Bob do? Bob gets fat. Don't be like Bob. AKA
I
now
think we
we're
should get a
translating
shirt.
things
Don't be
into
like Bob. Don't be
don't
Bob.
don't be Bob, right? Or learn from Bob, right? But then we learn from watching other people, and one of the best things that we can understand about learning as a human species is that we learn fastest, and we're hardwired, and it's really cool in that we learn through imitation. And so this is when we see things like, oh, I don't want to do that. If you ever see someone in pain, you reflexively try to do the thing to not do that. So when we see people doing something cringy that we think is embarrassing, what do we feel? We feel like a secondhand embarrassment. So that's kind of what that does, is getting people to start to pay attention. But once they're problem aware, now you can talk about the benefits and anxieties, or the problems and the pain points. And then once you talk about that a little bit, now they start looking for a way to solve their problem. You've earned that trust. Now you can start talking about claims and social proof and testimonials. But I mean, let's be honest, how many people do you see putting out testimonials that they've never really developed any of those stories or anything else? And this is why, people kind of suck with marketing unless they have a clear strategy of like, here's a story. Okay, now you understand you have a problem. Here's the benefits. Here are the obstacles. Here's the proof that I have, that I've demonstrated that I can now help you solve this problem. Sign up for coaching. By the way, if you sign up for coaching, maybe I'll give you a first time, discount or deal or whatever that looks like. But that's how I normally walk people through in a consultation format, where you've never met somebody. Now you're meeting with them for the first time, and you have to build the relationship. You have to then understand what the problem is, which means you need to build trust. Otherwise, they're not going to tell you the real problem, which means that they'll have no real value in the solution that you offer them if you keep it surface level. So by and large, it's like the first 50% of the consultation is just building relationships and asking softball kind of questions where you just throw it up, and they're really easy to answer
Don't
because
be
it gets
like
them
Bob.
comfortable.
Don't be
So
like Bob.
that's how I leverage it. Don't
Or
be like
learn from
Bob.
Bob. That's good ways. Those good two
So
two
what about you?
positioning statements there. But and it's
Mm-hmm.
funny. So you bring
Mm-hmm.
up the consult or the sale or whatever, right? And we have to move people from problem completely unaware all the way to most aware. And something we're breaking down and
Yep.
empowered, and over time we'll talk through here, is you can actually apply this awareness continuum in multiple facets in your business. But when we think about the attention side of things, so we're assuming that somebody is already, they're aware that you exist. They just have no idea about anything about you other than maybe your name and your face, right? I walk into the gym every morning and I have, I don't know, the same 5 to 10 people that say, hey, Steve, what's going on? I got one guy, one friend who he comes up and we chat, and it's always a good 4 or 5 minute chat every time. And I look forward to it. He's one of my buddies, right? And if I'm not there for 3 days, I know he's going to be like, all right, I gotta see what's going on with Steve. But I don't know where to find him. I have no contact information. I'm not sure where he lives. I have no other information other than he's consistently here, and right now he's not here. And I know that I have that one guy, right? He's that little bit of a level extra, but he knows nothing more about me. So I'm his friend in the capacity of we see each other at the gym. The journey becomes, how do I get that relationship that is budding, that's starting, to go from I'm friend to I am likely a trusted expert who can solve a problem that he has. And that's the big thing. Like, that's really the journey we want to bring somebody on. So on the internet, in person, wherever it might be, the journey is always the same. The tactics are going to change a little bit. But to your point, if I just meet my buddy who always talks and I start shoving testimonials in his face and he's like, wait, I didn't even tell you I had a problem. That's not my problem. Like, I don't get it. Same thing happens on the internet. If all you do is shove out testimonials every single time and you don't bring out some of these stories, some of these other things you do, a little bit about me, here's what I do, here's me as a human generally, it potentially risks losing context. Now, on the internet, you have less control over somebody's journey. You don't know that they're going to see your Instagram
Mm-hmm.
posts every single day in a row continuously. So you have to think about, how do I appropriately repeat some of these things and how do I appropriately weave them in and out to make sure I'm touching, kind of getting those pieces in there continuously, so I can move people through that go from friend to trusted expert thing, right? And it's even some of the dumb stuff like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm at the gym and I'm going to take a gym selfie and I'm going to post it. Cool. Sometimes you're taking the selfie because you're working out and you're showing the world that you work out. Awesome. Do those things. You're relatable to that person if you're doing the thing that they want to do. Other times you should probably throw some captions on there talking around the top 3 things that you do to create said outcome that you've created for yourself, and how you found it to make your life way easier, goal more attainable, whatever the thing might be. And now people read that and start to go, oh, this person helps achieve this thing, and they also work out, and maybe I've seen them at the gym as well, and I see them transforming or themselves, or they talk to people and they transform. They can start to connect those dots together and you start to move them through that journey that you desire. So you have educational content. Here's some tips and tricks and tools and things that I like to do, right? Like, you're going through right now a ton of posting on YouTube for movements and giving, basically, here's a movement library. You want to know how to go do a bretzel. Andrew has the bretzel with an overlay because he's been learning to edit on
Oh
YouTube,
man.
on our YouTube channel, but it's giving value. And, we are, people will find that and go, oh, this Andrew guy, this company Beyond the Pump does this thing. They help people with this. Now, sure, somebody who is a gym, enthusiast and they're working out for themselves might find it and might go, oh, they're talking to coaches. That's not who I want. They still get value though. Good interaction. Maybe they're like, hey, I wonder if they do some type of programming because I like his thing that he does. Sure, of course we do that. The coach finds it and goes, man, I can take these and reuse these in my workout programming. And you're saving me hours from having to worry about record them, edit them. I don't have to look like an idiot in the gym and lighting and all these things. Man, this
Yeah.
is
Oh man.
amazing. I can use this stuff. Oh, and it's Andrew who has 87 certifications. So I know that it's being done right. Yeah, totally down. And so you just move people through this, and you want to, as much as you can, pepper throughout their journey the things that they might be interested them in, to lead them to ultimately where you want to, which is, hey, I do have a solution for you. I have a way to enhance
Mm-hmm.
your life and make it better. Here's the thing. But you want to get them to go, hey, do you have the thing? Like, can you help me with this? Yeah, absolutely, I can. Because if you got to shove it in their
Mm-hmm.
face, all of a sudden that becomes an entirely different game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you bring up something interesting too. Is like when you think about the nature of content, it only circulates to so many people at a time, and so people that are worried about posting repetitive content, I think that it's really important for you to spend a lot of time as you're producing these assets and as you're producing like these stories. I would say probably 60% of your content should be stories to help raise as much problem awareness that then, if you're trying to capture all these people, now enough people start to see that, oh, this is a cautionary tale. Like, Bob eats fast food. Bob wants to lose weight. Bob can't lose weight. Bob stops eating fast food. Bob loses weight. Right. So now you start doing that. Now people are like, oh, okay, there's a lesson in there at the same time. It's a story. It's something that's not threatening to me. And now eventually you're like, you start to direct them, whether it's in your copy or whether it's giving them a follow up card or whatever that looks like. But the majority of people should do more storytelling instead of informational sharing, which we find is pretty rampant. Like, I remember there used to be these, I used to have and I still consider him a close friend, but he got me into the world of the big box gym. And he would walk around and he would like, hey, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't be doing that exercise that way. And so it turned into this. He developed a very specific reputation inside of this facility that he was very competent, but he wasn't super warm. And so that was a little bit of a deterrent for certain individuals that, there's a saying, if you want to catch more flies, use honey. And that is something, obviously, that wasn't his brand. So it took him longer to have people that do appreciate that style of coaching to start to seek him out, to start to look for, I don't care if you're going to say things in a very specific way that I'm receptive to. I just want the information itself. And then I want you to make me better. And we call that Russian style of coaching, which is like, I don't really care about your feelings. The work is the work. Don't be a little bitch about it. Right. And that doesn't go well for a lot of people. So
Reasons or
this is where, as
results.
you're doing this stuff, reasons are result. Yeah, 100%. And so like there's an element of supporting and challenging, and different coaches are going to have a different composition of, do you challenge your clients more so versus support them? And then you find the cheerleader types that tend to be overly supportive and not very challenging. And then you kind of find that, how much 60/40, 30/20, like, and obviously different situations are going to call for different compositions, but that's where, when we talk about stories, your ability to convey who you are, your personality through that story, is really the magic in having people become interested in what you have to say at all, versus what I hate so much. And I say that I hate this, but it really just, like, I unfollow, or I like just do my best not to pay attention to content that's like overly informational, unless it's about information that I inherently know that I'm looking for, which I can go and do independent research and find anyway. So I'm not really looking for any information. So I just scroll past those all the time. It's not compelling in 2025. So, I mean, I think that, the more you can tell different stories and the better you get at teaching lessons through stories, it's like being that wise old person in a village. People just always want to gravitate. They always want to hear what they have to say. Like, think about Morgan Freeman, right? Everyone wants to hear what Morgan Freeman says. If he ever speaks, that there's some wisdom, whiskey wisdom, about to come out of his mouth, and you just want to hear it. And he's usually not super like, you have to do this, which, admittedly I struggle with, because I tend to be very inherently like directive as a coach, and it doesn't work out well for me all the time, at least out
Well,
of
and
the
it's,
gate.
I think
So,
with that and the stories and how you approach people and reading them and what that relationship kind of conversation currency looks like, it
mhm,
is gonna it is gonna get them to go down that road of like, oh hey Andrew, tell me more about the thing, right? Like it's hard to go
mhm,
from
mhm,
potential lead, attention marketing world into conversation, and you have to force it to happen, but you want to almost create a situation where it's like, oh, this person provided so much value in this thing. The next
mhm,
logical step for me is to actually go down the road of saying, hey Andrew, can you help me further, right? And that's like, hey, these things are
mhm,
common. Like, we have
100%.
different polls, you can DM people and have conversations, you can create ebooks. Some of the educational content that you do and should put out there is going to help
Mhm, mhm,
promote that conversion, but without the stories and the connection and pulling people through the journey, it it kind of becomes, how relatable are you, and you're reducing the subset of the population
yeah,
that is probably going to want to talk to you based upon just who you are naturally. And listen, two people show up and they walk into the door, and you got you and I standing there. Depending upon what they want, how they perceive us, who they are, their life experiences, they're likely going to gravitate towards one or the other one of us. Just how life is. So that exists everywhere
mhm,
that you exist right now, again, online, in person. But what you
mhm,
want to truly
mhm,
think through is like, hey, for me to make a purchasing decision. So if you're a coach, you're listening to this thing, you're at this point in the episode where, 15 minutes in or so, 25 minutes in, I think, actually, at this point in time. And
it
it
went
always goes
fast.
fast.
I just
Um,
looked up. I was like, "Oh
that's
shit!"
why, like, we spend a day like with people in person and everything. Yeah, we got plenty of time, these 2-3 hour blocks and everything. We're like, where did
No,
19 hours go? Like, how did it get to 1 a.m., guys?
dude.
Um,
Honestly,
it-
we worry
yeah,
about filling it, and
but
it just goes. We can't
but you go
put
down
everything
this
in
road, and
there.
it's like, what journey did you take to become a coach? Because you post all this educational stuff because it's what excites you. You go down this road, you're like nerding out and doing all the things, and it's the stuff that you love. But on the other side of that, think about the person who doesn't love that stuff, which, if they loved it, would probably be sitting in the same chair or the same spot as you are. Well, what journey did you go down to figure out who you were going to purchase your first piece of educational material content course from? That journey that you went down is the same journey that somebody else has to go down, but not to become a coach, not to understand kinesiology and biology and movement and myofascial release and all of these things, but rather, how do I lose weight if I'm Bob? How do I go down this road? And it comes down to like, okay, cool. Bob probably knows he needs to lose weight because he's eating too much fast food. He probably knows that. But you have to have the conversation with Bob or pull him through the journey to actually identify that Bob is really bad at planning out his week, making time to be able to have some food, or figuring out some quick food options that are healthy. Because while Bob is busy at work grinding to go pay all of his bills and everything else in between and try to retire on time, he's just stopping at a fast food place because it's quick and easy, not because what he truly wants or desires.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows it's the problem, but he doesn't know how to solve the underlying problem, which is managing his schedule and finding things that are quick and easy. So just because Bob goes and eats fast food all the time
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean Bob likes fast food. It might mean Bob doesn't know something else. So as a coach, going up there and saying all day long, you shouldn't eat fast food. Well, guess what? There's plenty of people who have gone out and proven if you eat fast food appropriately, you can actually lose weight and probably gain muscle. It just comes down to the fact that fast food is so easy to consume so much calories so quickly, so like crammed in there with extra carbs and fats loaded in and not as much protein as you need. And somebody doesn't know that, and you need to solve that problem for Bob. Like that, and maybe that's not Bob's problem, but this is just the example of how you need to connect to them, tell the appropriate stories, and solve the right problems, which isn't usually the obvious thing, in order to get that person to go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
man, that's my issue. The guide on how to easily plan your week and hit your macros every single day, or like, fuck your macros, hit 200 grams of protein continuously without trying. Like that singular piece of content might be the thing that goes, that's actually what I needed, because now I know it's easier for me to hit my goals than ever before. Let me reach out to this person and see what
Mm-hmm.
other stuff they have. Right. So that's
Yeah.
those are the things that
Yeah.
you want to deliver on, and you want to think about like the content, the stories, the educational components is about the micro problem that exists. If you've gone through our blueprint, we talk about this. We talk about the idea of we talk about the idea of building somebody's journal entry so you actually understand the things that they're facing, not the thing that seems obvious on the surface, right? Don't judge a book by its cover here. You want to know what they're truly trying to figure out and solve so you can be the one to help them solve it. So, and stories are key. Stories are key for that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, if you tie this into the bigger behavior change, because at the end of the day, you're soliciting someone to change something, whether that's an exchange of resources, like you think this thing will give you access to a different set of strategies, tactics, behaviors, things you have to actually do to change your situation. Um, all that stuff falls into the behavior change kind of model of, and we used to talk about the trans theoretical model of behavior change, TTM, talk about in our psychology workshop, of course, but basically you're taking people that are pre-contemplative, meaning they're not even thinking about trying to solve a problem. So if you start trying to like, hey, let's problem solve, let's help you, like they don't care. All right. But then you get from pre-contemplative to contemplative. This is where something usually happens to get people to start to want to pay attention. And this fits in very well with the problem awareness continuum, which walks you through the first couple stages of the behavior change continuum, right? Where you're not thinking about the problem. Now you're starting to think about the problem. Traditionally, this is where if you go into a doctor appointment for an annual checkup and they say, hey, let's check this lump. You got a lump. Like now all of a sudden you're starting to think, you're starting to contemplate, I have a problem, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, like what do I start to do about the problem? So you move from contemplative or thinking about the problem to planning, like, okay, what are my options? What are my solutions? And that's where you kind of walk through from unaware, pre-contemplative, right? Problem aware, which is contemplative, and solution aware, which is also still in the contemplative phase. And now when you start actually planning, that's where you go from solution awareness to product awareness. And we're still in the first three stages of behavior change. So not thinking about it, starting to plan for it. And then once you plan for it, now you start to take action. And so that's where the product aware and the most aware, like, okay, have this weird lump. What am I going to do? Am I going to do chemo? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do, what are my nutritional interventions? Which by the way, like oncology nutrition is probably one of the trickiest things that I've ever found
Just don't
to
eat
deal
sugar
with.
because
But
that shit's
like,
bad for you.
because you have Yeah, yeah, sugarcoat. No, um, stop the misinformation. Zuckerberg's coming out on that one. But so we're walking people through this stuff, and if you offer people the wrong information at the wrong time, which is not really, there's no such thing as wrong information, it's just poor timing, right? And so you wouldn't tell a joke necessarily immediately as someone's getting their body buried, as it's getting lowered into the little thing in a funeral. Like that might not be the best time for you to tell a joke. So, it usually comes down to timing, and what you're looking at is walking people from, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. What am I going to do about the problem? Okay, let me get after doing the execution stuff, right? And then let me go into relapse or maintenance, because people usually fall off the wagon. So what do you do to get them back on? And then how do you get them to continue to do the thing eventually, and then terminate, which is where now they're good. That's usually where it's a strong enough habit. Like, you don't need to tell an adult to brush their teeth, right? Because they've been doing it for so long, they no longer takes conscious effort for them. So as a coach, the problem awareness continuum helps people walk through the first couple stages there. And you might even need another strategy or tactic like motivational interviewing, to get people to know that, okay, well, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. Well, you have a motivational issue there. Why is your motivational issue in existence? Is it because you don't feel resourced? Is it because you don't have enough intrinsic motivation? You need the carrot and the stick until you develop that habit, which transaction psychology, doesn't really work, being on an extended period. So point being is that you got to create a desire for change, which is motivation, right? Motivation is traditionally going to be associated with that. You can do it externally.
Motivation's
I'll give you $1
bullshit.
million if you do one social media. I'll give you $1 million if you do one social media post every single day for a year. Most people would be like, yeah, that's amazing. That's an external thing, right? Versus like, I want to do this because I think the industry is really messed up, and we want to change the narrative, and we want to change the access that the general health consumer has to quality information professionals that actually care, which is what we do here, Beyond the Pump. That's why we do this. It's not for the paycheck. I know it's a big surprise for everybody, right? But we actually do want to change the narrative in the industry, and we want people to become great professionals that can then be local community health leaders. And so that's why we had the education stuff and everything else. But long story short, I hope that was helpful, like stories and, how that fits in with the behavior change model, also marketing, also coaching, like everything where you're trying to get someone to do something. This is a really helpful paradigm for you to start to get them to want to do the thing. At the end of the day is how I look
So,
at it.
kind of bookending this on the other side, we have a couple of key things there that we went through, but there are a couple of pitfalls that you want to avoid, right? I would say big thing number one we want to focus on here is don't be salesy when it's an inappropriate time to be salesy. You walk up to somebody on the street and you have no prior relationship and you shake hands, it's probably not the right time to say, "Hey, do you want to buy this thing that I have?" Because guess what? They You didn't move them through the continuum. They don't know what you can truly solve for them. Just because you're a coach and you might be a world renowned, the best coach ever, you might be freaking Elon Musk, and if they don't recognize you and know, oh yeah, he's got Starlink and this internet thing and all that stuff, like it doesn't matter. So don't be salesy. Wait until it's an appropriate time to have the sales conversation, and then it's not salesy. Most time coaches are like, oh, I don't like sales. Well, it's probably because you sucked at getting them to the point in time where it was ready to actually have that conversation, at which it's just a decision making conversation. If you can truly help them, you owe it to them to get them to
Yeah.
purchase whatever
Mm-hmm.
service you're offering. It is literally your duty. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, you suck. I love you, but you suck. Yeah,
Not
yeah,
as a person,
yeah,
just in
yeah,
that skill
yeah.
set.
I
Just
don't,
so
I
we're
don't, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Everyone's like, "Oh no!" You're like, "Yeah, you're trash as a human." They're like,
But
unsubscribe.
they, no,
Edit
no,
all
keep
this
this
out,
in,
Michelle.
keep
Edit
this
this
in,
part
keep
out.
this in. Michelle's a rock star, by the way, everybody. Michelle's a rock star. Um,
Oh man, yeah, we
but
would fall
like
apart
thing
without
number
her.
two here is inconsistent messaging. And what I mean by that is if all of a sudden you show up on day one and like you built out this path and you're going to bring people through this continuum and you have step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, you shouldn't randomly shove in there step 27 that didn't actually make sense or help people move through the journey. Now, what I mean by that very tactically is don't all of a sudden go down the road when you're in the middle about talking around weight loss coaching and go down this road of you coach bodybuilders for peak physique and IFBB pros at shows. Because it's probably not going to overly land well with the people who are currently looking at what you have going on. Finish the weight loss conversations. And if you do coach IFBB pros and go down that road, have a whole conversation and storyline around that. Make sure it's just consistent and you're driving people from point A to where you want them to go, and it makes sense. Don't not make sense, because if you were watching, you'd be like, wait, huh? You cause confusion, and now all of a sudden somebody's less likely to take action or reach out to you and say, hey, can you help me? Thing number three, and this one's always a fun one. I'm gonna say it like on the marketing hook side of thing, is don't neglect to build your funnel. Here's what I mean by that though. It's not about the actual technological funnel building like a landing page or a website. Now, maybe it is that. Maybe you are at a point in time in your business where you should have those things. But the reality is a funnel is applicable wherever you want it to be. Your top of funnel, your audience, all those pieces, is you're trying to get new people into your world to at least know that you exist as a human. Like we said, they're completely unaware. Phase 1. Phase 5, where they become completely aware, most aware, you've moved them through a 5-stage funnel as we've described it today. You don't want stage 1 to go directly to 5 without stage 2, 3, and 4 in there. You can't control every step 100% in today's world with technology and social media. We know that. But just because we can't control it doesn't mean you don't do it. Likely in today's economy, people are going to go, if they see something interesting somewhere, they have a conversation with you in person, they like your content you posted, they're going to click and try to learn a little bit more before they make the ask. So make sure you're intelligently putting the things out there, so that way when people go start searching, they can find the information they're looking for to help them make the best decision possible for them. And lastly, like, I'm going to throw this out there, make sure you follow up with people, because traditionally coaches suck at marketing and sales because we like the craft of the actual coaching. Follow up or following through is key, and not just on a lead, which is where we use this terminology, following up most, but just follow through with posting the things that you're supposed to post. I'm a great example. I literally took an entire year just to be consistent on social media. It was my only goal, and it was terrible. But it was like training myself of, I'm okay if 2 or 3 people like this and nothing else happens. It's not about the engagement, the numbers or anything. I had to go through that process. I also wasn't consistent. I didn't tell stories perfectly. And one thing that or I would say, but one thing I made sure I did, any comment, anything, I made sure I followed up with at least a, hey, thanks, engage in conversation, or like pique some curiosity there. So just make sure you're being social when it calls for it. Follow up with those conversations. Continue to pursue that relationship down the path, so to speak, that it was going. And don't just accidentally mess those things up. So those would be my quick, like, hey, don't fall into these traps, because that's going to suck for you. And like, you just don't want that work to go to waste. So any closing things on this one, Andrew?
I mean, number one is the thing that's jumping out to me in the social media side is that it is a new year. And if you're watching this and it's not, then the lesson still applies, is that if you see content from people that you know, it's really helpful if you engage with it. Like it, share it, comment under it. Like, it goes a long way to help people that are producing content to continue to do that. So if I were to make one small ask, but outside of that, like, I think we've covered and really worked through the top of the funnel here of like, how do we get people interested? How do we start to get them into our community? How do we create value? And my question is as we think about storytelling, which is really the most valuable skill I think you can master as a coach in this 2025, outside of obviously the coaching stuff, but what makes a story compelling? What makes people want to stop and listen? And I would love for you to comment your thoughts below, because it does go such a long way for you to start to share like, hey, these are things that I think are interesting in a story. And just one quick storytelling tip, as you're doing the storytelling in general, you want to tell it from a first person experiential status. You don't want to talk about it like you're a third person. Like, an example of that might be like, here I am walking through Walmart, and as I'm looking at the shelves, I notice that, and I get this really weird feeling, and I look over my shoulder and there's this guy staring at me with his hand in his pocket, making a quick gesture. You're like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want anything to do with that. Versus like, yeah, there was a guy at Walmart that was doing something weird in the aisle. Like very different level of engagement
Why
from
is
having
that the
someone that's wearing a
example? Like
trench coat
why
doing
you,
questionable things. I don't know. I just thought it was something that was different enough that novelty will create interest. So that's a way of me telling a
got it.
story that's like, what the fuck is this? And now you're like, what is he talking about? And clearly the guy was playing pocket pool in Walmart,
It's a good
right?
thing that
So
these videos are rated explicit, I suppose.
yeah, for sure. But my point is that like you can talk about like guy trench coat doing something weird. That's one story example. The other is I'm walking through Walmart. I have this thing. I feel weird. I turn around and you kind of start to do a yes, but or a no, and. And if you guys want to talk about storytelling composition, if you comment below, we'll see that this is getting enough attention and maybe we'll do an episode on storytelling formatting. But that's really it. That's all I got.
Tell good
Tell good
stories,
stories.
move people through that
Tell
process,
good
move them
stories.
from all the way phase one, step one, unaware, all the way to most aware. You need to become positioned as that
Mhm.
expert. You can't force it. They need to see it through the stories that you tell, intertwining, weaving together. And that's how you ultimately become that person of interest for the, so to speak, that person who's wanting help, right? Hey, Andrew. Hey, Steve. I'm Bob, and you guys can help me solve my problem based upon all these things that I've seen. And that's what you want people to see and hear and know about you. So, that all said, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to us if you're not already. Like the video, throw us a comment on things you want to learn about. That's how it helps us to come up with some of the ideas that we're going to chat about and bring to you. So keep those going. The DMs are awesome. Keep throwing us questions there. That's great. Just helps us out a lot. But otherwise, look at that. Look at that screen. One of us has an Apple, and we don't need to say who, but one of us does. So, but anyways, subscribe, rate, review. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Hope you love this, and hope you take something out of it. At least write it down, move people through that journey, do it intentionally, and that's where you're going to start to see the results.